So I've been working with a number of veteran organisations in Wales and England for the past 4 years, helping raise awareness about the work they do and the issues that matter to them. And each time we connect, whether it's on social media, they say to me, if you ever have the opportunity to speak with the Minister for Defence, People and Veterans, Johnny Mercer, please ask him this. Well, today's the day. We're here. I have him in front of me, and it's good to finally be able to talk to you, Minister, and find out more about the work you're doing to help former armed forces personnel in Wales.
Great to meet you, and thanks so much for all the work and the focus you shine a light on this stuff, and it's great to see, so thank you.
Let's start off with today's big announcement about the National Insurance Contributions Holiday for businesses who employ armed forces veterans. Why has the UK government decided to do this?
Look, I think what we're going through at the moment is a process to change what it means to be a veteran in this country. It's something I've been obviously campaigning on for many years, and there's a series of sort of small incremental gains that we're making at the moment, whether it's around this, whether it's around a veterans rail card, whether it's a guaranteed interview scheme, because all these little incremental gains will change what it means to be a veteran in this country. I understand, for some people it's sort of not quick enough, and I understand that. I have huge ambitions around veterans care, but I think it's an important moment, and it's an important milestone. Having a job, the single biggest factor improving your life chances if you're a veteran, and that of your family as well. So a big day, and I'm pleased to see this finally out the door.
Your office was set up in 2019. You've had a lot of ground to cover. What's been the most challenging part of taking on this job?
The most challenging part is getting the bandwidth in government to get out and get policies like this out the door, because there's so much goodwill in the sector. There's people who have worked in this space for a long time doing incredible work without really that support from central government. And now I'm trying to really lean into that and blend sort of third sector and statutory provision to make it a kind of seamless experience for our people who leave and who need that support.
The Historic Investigations Unit's probe, you say, weighed heavily on your heart and your mind. What assurances can you offer those who are currently serving and those who served in Northern Ireland that this issue is being solved?
So what I would say is that my commitment is unwavering to these people, to try and shift UK government position towards looking after these people and preventing the repeated and vexatious nature of litigation against those who served is a huge task. I am convinced we will get there in the end. I'm not happy with the pace of progress, and I'll have more to say on that in due course.
A number of conversations that I have with veterans, it's always centering around loss of identity when they left service, not knowing who they are, where they go from, and you introduced the ID cards to help them maintain that link with that identity, but also when they go to their GP or need help maybe from the council or other services, it gives them that ability to say, this is what I've done, this is who I am. Has the pandemic had an impact on that rollout?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, the pandemic, I think, has presented opportunities as well as real challenges to this sector. I think, you constantly seen over the last few years before the pandemic, really, a decline in giving to the service charity sector. I think as operations became less in the public eye from Iraq and Afghanistan, obviously giving went down. But you all know as well as I do that the demand just seems to go up at the moment, I think, as some of the challenges from those campaigns come home to roost. And what the pandemic's done is really kind of speeded that up. And so what I've tried to do in the space in the middle is bring forward these government programmes to ensure that the care is available and being delivered whilst it's being delivered by our third sector partnership. So, for example, things like Operation Courage, which I launched in England and Wales, single front door for all the NHS treatment programs in the UK. That is a big first step. But you're right, I now need to go on a mission around this country and make sure that every GP surgery and NHS trust is signed up to it. I think, I think some of my colleagues, and I think sometimes in this sector we can be a bit too nice about trying to encourage people to this is, this isn't a hobby horse of mine or yours. This is the nation's duty that it has to her veterans, and I'm going to make sure that it delivers on that.
You mentioned Operation Courage, then you said about England and Wales. We've seen it rolled out in England. Is there going to be investment for Wales? Because, of course, we have the different structure in here because of devolution.
They do, but that's why we're looking to establish the Veterans Commissioner in Wales, and I've now got one in Northern Ireland. We've got one in Scotland, because I want to level up the experience of being a veteran, irrespective of where you are across the United Kingdom, and that includes in our devolved regions. So yes, the idea is to get the same effect, if you see what I mean. There are different mechanisms to do that, you're right, in Scotland and Wales, but for the veteran, the key is their experience of going to a single front door and then being pulled through a care pathway in the NHS that will address their mental health concerns.
In Wales, we also have Armed Forces liaison officers. So will they be working closely with that commissioner and feeding in?
Absolutely, and the idea is that the commissioner sort of becomes that kind of point of contact, if you like, to pull. It's a non-political role to pull together all of these functions of the devolved government in Wales and basically make it work and be the veterans' voice and make it work for them as they access the various areas of veterans care in Wales. There are some areas in Wales that are a real lesson for us elsewhere in the country, that's done better. There's some things that are done better in Scotland that are done better in England. And look, I have no, I'm not precious about any of this. I want to go where best practice is and roll it out across this nation, so that our veterans get a standardised professional level of service.
Will this have any impact on the AFLO's roles? There's a bit concerned that maybe they will lose their jobs as a result of this.
No. The idea is that this is something that enhances their roles, and a lot of AFLOs that I've spoken to will actually say, I kind of feed my stuff in, but I feel like there isn't that kind of accountability coming downwards to make sure this stuff actually works. Well, that's the issue that I'm trying to address, rather than absolutely not. The AFLOs do an amazing job, and they need to continue to do that and work with the commissioner. It's all about achieving the outcomes, which is a better set of outcomes for our veterans, which I know all the AFLOs want to do anyway.
Do we have a timeline for the commissioner's role?
I don't at the moment. I'll work with local governance in Wales. I want the Welsh government to lead the way on this, but it'll be established within the next 6 months to a year. Yeah.
We've got a small thing of a little election going on in the next few weeks.
Well,
so
that's the problem. So I can't
hold it
go into that at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so basically, I've been speaking to the guys at Minds at War. They are manning a crisis helpline 24/7, and 13 lives have been lost in the past 13 weeks due to suicide. You say this is an issue which shouldn't be taboo, needs to be talked about. You've also said suicide is not an epidemic amongst veterans, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts on those figures and the crisis support currently available in the UK.
Look, every suicide is a tragedy, not only for the individual and their family, right, but for us as an institution in the military. I want people to go away from their time in the military really enhanced by what they did, and I totally accept the point that historically our data and our attitude towards this has been unacceptable. It's why one of the first things we did when we came into the Office of Veterans Affairs was throw money at the data problem, and we've got two really important studies going on now. A cohort, 20,000 people have been followed from 2003. We've bought that off King's College so we can see their life outcomes. Every individual who now takes their life, there was a study by Manchester University going into what happened, what life events there were that took place in that individual's life before they reached that moment, and if there's any case where we could or should have intervened in any way. You're right, the underlying headlines are that outside of a specific cohort, who served at a specific time in Afghanistan, you are less likely to take your life if you've served. But for me, that's not really the point. The point is that each one of these is an individual tragedy, and we should be straining every sinew to catch them whenever we can. 13 in 13 weeks is a tragedy, we work on this every single day. My message would be that there is now more help available than ever has been before. That is a fact of life. That you can look on things like the Veterans Gateway and or Courage and places like that. There is help available, but I will strive relentlessly to make it easier for people to access those services, so that we reduce these numbers.
I've been looking at Twitter quite a bit as well to try and get some research and background on what the work you're doing, but also looking at British Army as well, and really, really heartened to see that Sergeant Major Gavin Payton was talking about his own mental health on a recent video and talking about Operation Smart and the way in which he's been engaging with his men and women with regards to mental resilience. And I saw the stats, there's something like over 30,000 have been trained so far with the aim for everyone to do this. And he's been connecting with his soldiers during this time through gaming. And I love that because I know my sons, that's how they've been talking with their friends and keeping in touch when we've had to stay indoors, and also through DM on Twitter. Yeah. And he says conversations that weren't being had 18 months ago are now happening. And from April, mandatory fitness training will take place every year for personnel. So this is a real 180 moment.
Yeah. Look, we're making faster progress on this than we've ever made before. You have to temper that with the fact that we come from a very low baseline. Okay, so 10 years ago, even when I was serving 10, 15 years ago, we've come on light years from that. Brilliant people like Gav Patton, Glenn Horton, and others. We held a meeting with service chiefs and were very clear we wanted mandatory mental health training for our veterans. Mandatory mental health training for our service personnel from 1st of April this year, and that's now come in, and so no one can leave the armed forces saying that they did not have the opportunity to be kind of equipped and empowered to deal with some of the things that we ask our people to do. In no way are we trying to sort of force anything on anybody, but we're clear that in the military we ask our people to do a series of defined challenges that are outside what you would do in civilian life, and we should equip them, yes, with the equipment, but also with the ability to deal with mental resilience and mental fitness and things like that as well. So we've made huge progress, and it's great news, but we've got some way to go.
You've got great background, you know the job inside and out, and you said previously, whilst you were not in the cohort of MPs, that you didn't like them, the way that they treated your cohort when you were part of the armed forces, but you are one of them now. They're your colleagues. So how do you feel about them?
I keep those views to myself. I don't really change my views, I'm afraid. It takes me a while to arrive at a position, and my views have not changed on that or any of the other commitments we've made, or since I've gone into government. I was very clear that, for example, the historic prosecution process was deeply unfair towards veterans. Some veterans are cross now because they don't hear from me very much. My views have only ever stayed the same, or indeed become more entrenched. But I'm in the government, and a government minister's role is very different when it comes to speaking out on issues. But I will have more to say about that in the months ahead.
Minister, as you know, I've been lobbying and campaigning on behalf of veterans for 4 years for a very, very personal reason, and it's culminated in us organising a Veteran Network Day where we bring together organisations from across the UK to meet. It's their day. It's not about our organisation. It's an opportunity to show them that we're flying the flag for them. How important is it for them to have that recognition, have that support, and that media companies do use their voice for the greater good?
Look, I think what Bauer Media are doing is brilliant, because there's a huge platform out there in the media that can be used, not only for all the things that everyone's excited about on a day-to-day basis at the moment, but in getting people to understand what is available for veterans help in the UK. It is no good people like me and others just sitting there saying all this help is available if there's a guy down in Plymouth who left the military 4 or 5 years ago who starts to struggle, right, but does not know where to turn. That is where the media is so important, because if we've got to the point now where we have set up services. The challenge is getting people to understand where they are and how to access them, and the media has such a huge role in that, and that's why I wanted to come on today and thank you for all your efforts.